Young Money certainly showed up yesterday in the Midwest. Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Kansas Speedway, the best mile-and-a-half track we go to on the circuit. It's fast. It's fun. You can run anywhere on the racetrack. Bottom, middle, high groove, and that progressive banking. It's unbelievable. And the restarts always have you on the edge of your seat with how tightly bunched these cars are. And yesterday, on Mother's Day, we saw a lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of tire fall-off, and one driver was so dominant from the get-go. Let's get into all that happened in Kansas. Number 1, Young Money dominates. Kyle Larson put on a clinic yesterday at Kansas Speedway, winning the Advent Health 400, beating out Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, and Alex Bowman for the victory. It was just a dominant day for Kyle Larson, starting on the pole, leading the most laps, over 220 plus laps led, won both stages, and then won the whole race in general. I mean, the 5-car was on rails yesterday. Coming to the track where he had that incredible win over Chris Buescher in the closest finish in NASCAR history a year ago, we were like, how could he top this? Well, he could go out and destroy the competition on the racetrack. That's certainly how he did it yesterday. The 5-car is on rails. In Kansas Speedway, it's always been a track that Kyle Larson, it just adapts to his racing style as a dirt racer because of how high you can run up against the upper groove, up against the wall where he normally likes to run, hang it loose, just change lanes anywhere you want to. Larson just loves these types of racetracks because it benefits, again, his driving style, and he showcased it yesterday. The 5 team with Cliff Daniels, they had that 5-car hooked up yesterday on the racetrack. Although I will say, there were a couple times where it looked like Kyle Larson possibly, despite his dominance, may not have been in position to maybe get the win, because there were times at the end of those long green flag runs that we had in stage 1 and stage number 2 where we got a longer green flag run, the tire fall off would begin to kick in and his car would get a little bit loose, and when he got hung up behind traffic, it would slow him down to the point where his teammate nearly caught him for the stage win at the end of stage number 2, even though Larson was able to hold him off. But then he lost a few spots on the restart to open up the final stage, and was not really able to kind of catch back up there, but thankfully he had some cautions benefit him, and he had some good research despite challenges from guys like Christopher Bell and Joey Logano. Larson was not going to be denied. And on the last lap yesterday, I will admit, it was a close call, because going into turn number 3, the 5-car started slowing down because it looked like he had rubber chunking off of one of those front tires, which slowed down his pace. But thankfully, he was just far ahead of second place to the point where he was able to get it across the start-finish line and be the victor. His 3rd win of the season. It was just a dominant win for Kyle Larson in general, and it also puts him equal on the all-time win list at 32 wins next to NASCAR Hall of Famer Dale Jarrett. And there's no doubt about it that when Kyle Larson's Cup career is all said and done, he will be a Hall of Famer for NASCAR. I mean, his resume so far has been incredible. The only thing that's missing really is like a Daytona 500 victory, and he'll have to wait for that next year. But the opportunity to go win his 2nd championship is still there right now. And this 5 team is just so clicking. And he's got a busy month ahead of him. This is the month of May, after all, that we're now in. And he has everything ahead of him that he has to prepare for. He's got the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, but he also has practice and qualifying sessions, not just for the Coke 600, but for the Indianapolis 500, because he's going to try to attempt that again this year. Hopefully he'll be able to make the 33-car field, which I'm pretty sure he will, knock on wood. But I do have full confidence that Kyle Larson in that number 17 car will be in the Indianapolis 500, will be a threat, and hopefully this year the weather's good enough where he runs the Indy 500 and flies all the way to Charlotte and makes it in time for the 600, because last year the weather just really destroyed the opportunity for Larson to do the double. He stuck around for the Indy 500 and then made the trip late to Charlotte for the 600, even though it had already started. But he was able to make the attempt to Charlotte, which gave him the waiver that he needed to stay playoff eligible, because NASCAR said if he didn't really make the attempt to get to Charlotte, then he probably would have had his playoff eligibility stripped from him. But thankfully he did. Let's see what happens the rest of this month, because again, he's got a lot on his hands, and not to mention, he's dirt racing during the weekdays. It's unbelievable. This guy is a family man, but he also loves to race. So just a pure dominant win for Kyle Larson, the 5 team yesterday, and I tip my cap to them. They had that thing hooked up from start to the checkered flag. Number 2, Bell falls short. Christopher Bell comes oh so close to getting his 4th win of the season, finishing runner-up yesterday to Kyle Larson. This is the 4th time, by the way, that these two drivers have finished 1-2, but Kyle Larson's come out on top 3 out of the 4 times. Bell could have maybe made it half and half yesterday because, again, he was closing in that last lap when Kyle Larson started slowing down through turns 3 and 4 with it looked like the right front or left front tire was starting to chunk rubber. But he was too far back to have a chance. But it was still a great performance, second place for Christopher Bell. And although he ran top 5, top 10 a lot of the race yesterday, he did not have a race-winning car underneath him at all. There was one instance where he did beat Kyle Larson off pit road first after the 4th caution of the race occurred in the final stage, but Kyle Larson got the better of him on those restarts, and Bell just slipped back and lost spots. And on those long green flag runs, like Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell abusing his tires, car was just not hooked up. He would lose a lot of time compared to the leader, and it just didn't seem like it was the typical type of Christopher Bell performance. I would expect him to see him up front leading laps and at least being on par with the 5 car yesterday. But when the 5 car had those long runs and the distance ahead of guys like Bell didn't have anything for Larson. But a second place finish for the 20 team, still not a bad performance overall. Number 3, charging from the back into the top 10. 2 guys that started at the back end of the field in yesterday's race made great charges to get up inside the top 5, top 10, and have some solid finishes yesterday. And they were 4th place finisher Chase Briscoe and 7th place finisher Josh Berry. Let's start first with Chase Briscoe finishing in 4th spot. It was a great performance. Now, he actually didn't have a starting position at the back. He had to start back there because of unapproved adjustments due to some guys like himself having some tire issues during the practice session on Saturday. But Briscoe was able to slowly work his way up through the field. Now, he did have one problem during the first stage pit stop where he had a slow stop and ultimately lost a lap in the process. But thankfully, he had fresher tires. He was actually able to pass by Kyle Larson towards the end of that stage and get his lap back the hard way, and thus preventing him from having to use the free pass. Briscoe was able to stay around the top 15, top 20 for live stage number 2, and then when we kept having caution after caution after caution to open up the final stage, Briscoe found himself inside the top 10 and then vaulted himself inside the top 5 on that last green flag run at the very end. This 19 team, again, they have shown some consistency the last couple of races after a rough ride to start to the year after winning pole for the Daytona 500, but the 19 team seems to be hitting their stride as far as getting some top 5, top 10 runs. If we could see more of that going forward and possibly less mistakes on pit road, we could see soon Chase Briscoe in victory lane in this number 19 car, because we all had high expectations for him joining Joe Gibbs Racing this year, replacing the now retired from full-time competition Martin Truex Jr., but we still haven't seen Briscoe pull through and have the dominant car in a race to win yet. I think it's coming. It's going to take a little bit of time, but they're continuously knocking off solid finishes like this. They're going to build their points cushion above the cutoff line of drivers that do not have a win yet. He keeps that going, and he can find himself in the playoffs, and hopefully soon he'll win before having to worry about points when it comes to trying to make the playoffs. But a great charge from Chase Briscoe despite an early mistake in stage 1 that put him a lap down, but he got it back the hard way. He pulled out there with a 4th place finish, and that was an impressive performance. Same goes for Josh Berry in the 21. He started at the back of the field dead last because he had a bad qualifying performance where he hit the wall, started at the back of the field. But based off of practice, we felt like that 21 car was going to come through the field and be one of the top 4s of the race. And by golly, did they have a rocket ship in that 21 car. I'm not sure it was on par to Kyle Larson, but for sure it was going to finish inside the top 5. That 21 car's long run speed was out of this world. But at the beginning of the final stage, after everybody came in for pit stops, the 21 car had a penalty that sent him to the tail end of the longest line, last car on the lead lap. And we thought, if this thing goes green the rest of the way, there's no way he can recover from this. But thankfully, we had some cautions, and Berry was able to get back some of those spots and was able to stay in front of some of the chaos that was going on in the final stage and put himself back inside the top 15. And then that last long green flag run, he restarted about, I think, in 16th spot. He kept passing guys like crazy on that last long run and got himself up into 7th place. Again, that penalty never happened. Josh Berry could have finished inside the top 5. And this is their 3rd top 10 of the season, given the fact that this team already has 2 top 10s entering this weekend, including their win from Las Vegas earlier this year, a track that's kind of similar to Kansas, although Kansas, I think, has got a little more progressive banking in the turns than Las Vegas does. Even though Las Vegas does have some pretty steep turns, it's nothing like Kansas. But Josh Berry, other than that, the last couple of races, they have kind of been, rugged, to say the least. They've had speed in their cars, but they haven't had the finishes to go along with that speed and show how good they were. But yesterday, to overcome a penalty like that, have the speed that they had, and get a top 10 out of it, I don't think they could be too disappointed in that. Let's see a few more races going down the road to see how this team can up their A game and have more top 5, top 10 finishes, because the speed's there, and this 20 team leaps and bounds ahead of where they were as a race team the last couple of years. And it's all because of what Josh Berry brings to the table and this team right now, the way that they're set up. It's just unbelievable the run that they're having. So nice runs yesterday from Briscoe and Berry, charging from the rear inside the top 10. Number 4, attrition plagues some key contenders. A couple guys that had some really good runs yesterday and could have possibly finished inside the top 5 or maybe even won the race got hit with some issues in the race towards the end of it. Let's start first with Chase Elliott, who might have had the car to keep up with the 5 of Kyle Larson. Elliott qualified inside the top 10 and had some really good long run speed, finishing runner-up in both stages to Kyle Larson. And then the final stage, he beat Larson off of pit road. And when he had the lead in the clean air, that 9 car was gone. That car was so strong. But when the caution came out for the 4th time, everybody came onto pit road. The 9 team jacked up the car on the right side, and when the jackman took the jack off the right side of the car, the rear tire turner waited over and said, "I don't have the rear lug tight," so the jackman had to jack the car back up so they could apply that lug properly to the right rear wheel, and that slowed their pit stop down to a 14.7 second stop and cost Chase Elliott a possible, if not win, top 5 finish, because it dropped him all the way back to 14th. And when that long green flag run happened at the very end of the race and then being stuck in traffic, I think the tire wear and the handling kicked in. It wasn't really helping him, and he had to settle for a 15th place finish. Definitely sucks, because they had a car that could have finished in the top 5 and maybe, possibly, could have won the race. But we'll never know because of that pit mistake. The speed was there, which is encouraging for this 9 team that has been in the top 20 in every single race so far this year. But we want to see more out of them, and by that, I mean winning races and finishing in the top 5 more often. So they got to correct that going forward. Then we go to Denny Hamlin, who last week suffered his first DNF of the season with a blown motor early exit at Texas. Yesterday, he had a very fast car, perhaps the best car out of the Toyotas, despite an early setback where he got stuck down in 30th spot after changing tires and not really being able to go anywhere until we got into a long run. But when we got to stage number 2 and Hamlin found himself inside the top 10, he had clutch problems when it came to getting the car in gear, leaving pit road. Once he got the car pushed out of his box by his pit crew and got up on the track and back up to speed, the car was still fast. But it was pit stops on pit road, especially under yellow, that were going to be his Achilles heel. And after the 4th caution of the race, when he came in and made that stop, the clutch officially broke, and that was the end of the day for Denny Hamlin, the 11 car. 2 rough weeks in a row for this 11 team. Again, they already have their 2 wins from earlier this season. They're locked into the playoffs, but it's just unfortunate for them to have some of this luck right now that they've had 2 pretty decent cars the last few weeks and haven't had the results to show for. Particularly yesterday, I think the car could have finished in the top 5, but we'll never know after that clutch issue. And then we go to Brad Keselowski. When it rains, it pours. This guy can't catch a break this season at all. I mean, he qualified deep in the pack, but took a strategy after the first caution of the race occurred early in the race. He stayed out, gained some track position, and he was able to stay inside the top 15 for a lot of stage number 1, got himself inside the top 10 by stage number 2, and in the final stage, he had a great pit stop that put him inside the top 5, and he was running runner-up to Chase Elliott in the early part of that final stage, and kind of gaining on him a little bit when we got into a little bit of a run, but then going into turn number 1, the 6th car lost the right front wheel and hit the wall, taking him out of the race. I was so gutted to see Brad Keselowski hit the wall like that after having a really good run. The speed was for sure in that race car, and it had to be, because if his teammates Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher finishing in the top 10 doesn't show a sign that there's speed in those cars, I don't know what is. But Brad just cannot catch a break this year. No top 10s, no laps led, nothing so far. And he's 33rd in points. it's literally, I'm getting Bobby Labonte 2005 vibes around Brad Keselowski, former champion of the sport, and has had no luck whatsoever. Now, unlike Bobby Labonte back then, he did have a couple top 10s at a few other races, but Brad has a big fat goose egg at a top 10 this year. None. The speed was there, but the luck wasn't. They've got to put it together. And like Kevin Harvick has said the last few weeks, this team, where they are right now in points, they are must win. They have to win a race if they're going to make the playoffs. There is no way, with the luck that they've had, that they can gain a lot of points to get back to the top 16. They must win a race if they're going to be in the playoffs this year. And it's going to be a tall ladder to climb for them. But if they can put a race together and run up front and find themselves in position to possibly win at the end, then maybe things could turn around. But for right now, it's just been that kind of year for Brad Keselowski. So tough break for three guys yesterday that had very good cars but had no luck to show for it. At number 5, the Kansas Racing. This track, the last couple of years with this car, has been outstanding when it comes to the on-track performance. We see so many side-by-side action, a lot of craziness on the restarts, 3 wide, sometimes 4 wide. We saw a few times that yesterday, especially on the restarts. There was some really, really good racing this weekend. Now, obviously, Kyle Larson's dominance kind of overshadowed the racing yesterday, which left a lot of people a sour taste in their mouths just seeing one guy flat out dominate the competition. But if you look at the rest of the race, aside from Kyle Larson's dominance, there was some good battles out there from inside the top 5, top 10, top 15, and the tire wear was certainly there yesterday. We had some tire problems in practice and qualifying, and some of that showed up in the race yesterday when we had those long green runs. As we saw, last lap, Kyle Larson was slowing down because he knew that there was something going on with that tire, but he still made it across the start-finish line in first. But this racing yesterday, does it live up to what happened in last year's race? No. But was it still a very good race? Yes, it was. There was competition. There were comers and goers. For some of the people kind of complaining about this, I don't know what to tell you. This is what we have with this car at these mile and a halves, and you can't deny that this car has made intermediate tracks a lot more entertaining than the previous car had, other than some races where the 550 package was pretty good. With this car, now you could argue that we could maybe add some more horsepower, but what we have on these mile and a halves is pretty solid. So I don't know what people want more. I mean, you're witnessing greatness on the track yesterday with what Kyle Larson did, dominating. And the racing in general, I thought, was good. It was very entertaining. And hopefully, when we come back here in the fall and it's a playoff race, it will be competitive. And maybe we won't have a guy dominate the field like Larson did. But that's how it was yesterday. But at the end of the day, there was still good competition out on that track. I also hope that everybody yesterday, to all the mothers out there, had a lovely Mother's Day yesterday. And of course, a shout out to my mom. I love you so much, and you made me the man that I am today, and being responsible, living my own, and caring for myself, as well as handling, working and everything. I can't thank you enough for raising me to be the man that I am today. And Mom, I love you so, so much. God bless you. And to all the moms out there, again, I hope you all had a lovely Mother's Day. And for those that were at the track yesterday, I hope you guys had a good Mother's Day, and that was a good gift for y'all. Now, we are off to do some racing for money. No points on the line this upcoming weekend because we're going back to North Wilkesboro for the 2025 All-Star Race, folks. 3rd year at this track, 2nd time at this track on the relatively new configuration. It should be a fairly entertaining race with a little bit of a interesting format to decide, the laps and, segments of each race. Of course, we got 20 drivers in the main feature. We have a couple guys running in the open. They're going to have to try to get in by finishing in the top spots at the end of the open, or hope that the fans gave you enough votes that you are the highest voted driver that can go in thanks to the fans. It's going to be a very entertaining weekend where, again, no points on the line, just money and bragging rights, and putting on a show for the fans. What will happen? Will we see Joey Logano repeat his win from last year? Will Kyle Larson be able to come all the way from Indianapolis and show up once again this weekend at North Wilkesboro like he did 2 years ago in the return to this track? We shall see. But it'll be a fun weekend racing for the money. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Subscribe, like, and congrats once again to Kyle Larson and the 5 team on their dominant win at Kansas. Have a great week, everybody. Let's go racing!